If you're hearing this, something in you already knows. You've felt the call, maybe for years, the sense that you carry something, a piece of a larger puzzle, encoded in you, waiting for the right moment to be activated. Well, that moment is now. The preparation phase is over. The inner work, the waiting, the wondering, if it was real, that season is complete. What's being called for now is something different. Connection, mobilization, the physical act of building together what we've all been dreaming of separately. Welcome to Being LUCA. I'm Leila Nagizada, and this podcast is a clearing call, a signal sent out to find the specific humans who are meant to co-create this vision with me. Each conversation we have here is a piece of the blueprint, exploring one central question from every angle. How do we actually build heaven on earth? On the inside as a new way of being human, and on the outside as a living, breathing, physical reality. A blueprint for a more evolved way of living. This isn't just a podcast. It's a gathering point. If you feel it, you're home. Let's build. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of the Being LUCA Podcast. In today's episode, I am sitting down with Justin Lofton, who is an entrepreneur, visionary, and community builder who's actively exploring what it takes to create aligned, regenerative ways of living. Justin's journey is one of true expansion. He went from traditional success and experienced a deep awakening journey that led him to question how we live, how we relate, and how we build together. Through his experiences, including time spent in places like Nicaragua and immersive community environments, he's been experimenting with what it actually looks like to bring these visions and these communities into physical reality. So aligned with my path, it was a joy to hear from someone else who is a few steps ahead and is living that. What I loved about this conversation is that we didn't just stay in the abstract. We explored the bridge between consciousness and execution and what it really takes to build intentional communities, how inner alignment translates into external systems, and also go into more practical things like exploring the role of emerging technologies like the DAO and tokenization, and how all of that can play into shaping the new future, the future and the new way of living on planet Earth in a more evolved way. So this is really a grounded, honest conversation about building the new world, not just dreaming about it. So I hope you enjoy the conversation, and let's dive right in. All right, Justin, so great to be here with you. Thank you for making the time for this important conversation. I think it's like we just shared earlier, it is really time for people like us who are actively wanting to not just dream about creating the new world, but actually do something about it. And to have these conversations, to have this platform, to share from our experiences and our perspectives and our expertise in our respective fields of what that actually looks like in practice, right? Because we can dream, but it's about the execution, which that's why I'm so excited to just have you share your journey and what that was like for you, because it seems like from a little bit that I've looked into your background, my sense is that you must have had some kind of an awakening that led up to this point, you know.
For sure.
So I'd love to hear about what that journey was like, and then just share about your incredible project that you're birthing into the world. I'd love to hear more.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. And I would agree, like it's there's a lot of beings on the earth that are actively taking compassionate action towards building community. And again, they are all at different stages. Some are built and they're trying to kind of evolve them into another stage of their own awareness and saying, well, you know, what we built already is good, but there's more we can do that aligns with where the energies are now. And so And then, like you said, there are folks that are just coming into their own awareness and saying, no, I want that. I don't want to live, in these structures and in the way that we have anymore. I want to do something different. And they're seeking um, folks like you and I that are also in that resonance and wanting to co-create things together. So I think that's yes, to all your things. I think yes, I had an awakening experience. I'm definitely a phase oneer in the world of spirituality. I was awakened sooner than most
Mm.
to hold space for my brothers and sisters, and so we can certainly talk through that.
Yeah, amazing. Maybe that could be a good place to start. What was your journey like of, coming into this field of forgetting and just being
Yeah.
separate self to then remembering like we are so much more. We're these multidimensional beings that are
Mm-hmm.
truly limitless, limited only but by what the mind is capable of conceiving essentially, and at a
Mm-hmm.
subconscious level believing and like reprogramming those
Uh-huh.
limited, outdated paradigms within which we are all kind of plugged into and swimming in. But we have so
Mm-hmm.
much power and sovereignty over those programs, right? So
For
yeah,
sure.
I'd love just for you to share how that journey was.
Yeah, so when I came in, I'm a Capricorn, so it's very like structured system. So business is a big part of my world. I started a business when I was 8 years old, fixing bikes in the neighborhood. At 11, I had a landscaping company with my good friend John. At 14, I went to work at McDonald's and learned all the systems and process of how to do something like that at scale. And so I've been in that sort of um, even as a kid in school, I was like, this is all fake. This doesn't make these stories don't make sense. I had, I had a teacher, I want to say fifth grade. She took me in the hallway and she says, I know you don't believe any of this. I just need you to just go along with it. Like, I was like, yeah, that was like, so there was, I mean, I was still obviously in the illusion of it all and like trying to figure it all out. And like same thing growing up in Atlanta, we kind of went to church here and there, but I was just like, they have an idea, and there's another church over here, and they're kind of using the same Bible, but like, what is this? What is happening here, right? So fortunately, I think that was a part of my journey, is kind of being the observer and seeing some of that, and my own personality is, as a kid especially, was very quiet and shy, and just like, so I was an observer quite a bit. And um and and, and what happened in the business world is, that takes you into personal development, and personal development can take you right into spirituality if you let that door be opened, because you start to listen to guys like Napoleon Hill, who's, it's business, but it's actually deep spirituality is what it is. And so, then there's Bob Proctor, and, some of these other folks in the business world are actually, you know, very esoteric beings that are using business to try and awaken folks. So I went through that journey, and certainly I've started many businesses. I've done business consulting. So in the framework of the earth, in this character I'm in, and all the things like very business centric. Um, but I've done like a lot of blue collar work. I was a plumber for years, and then I became a Cisco systems engineer. So I learned and built networks all over the world, like all kinds of things. I've done quite a bit. So in the sort of like career business world, I've always been in business and tried to, and from that perspective, the reason I'm talking about that in this context is because um, what I saw through business was the ability to add more value to people's lives.
Mhm.
And that goes beyond just making money or transactions. And it's still a key part of my resonance is like, sure, I've got my hands and we're still in this matrix of you got to pay your rent and pay your bills and all that. So I have businesses that are handling that for me. But I have gotten away from being involved in businesses that I think don't provide true value. Like I'm involved in water treatment and organic gardening, essential oils. So I'm looking for businesses that really can raise the frequency and vibration of the earth. So I can choose with my free will choice to be involved in any business. So why not choose a business or businesses that I think can improve things for my brothers and sisters, you know?
Incredible. I mean, that's why I think it's so important for people like yourself that have the skills, that have the resources to have that awakening experience, because once you do, it changes your entire priority system. And
For sure.
you start to remember that we're all interconnected and one, and whatever you do, you're really doing to yourself on some level, right? So I'm so happy to hear more and more from people like yourself that have the capital and the resources that are actually being so intentional with where they choose to direct that energy that is so needed in the world, right? Because a lot of people like myself
100%.
have the ideas and the visions, but are lacking the capital. And so
Hmm.
it's incredible that people like you exist. And it gives me hope to know that, so long as we continue to be visible, share our visions, our missions, and gather people together, aligned allies will gather, and together over
100%.
time,
Hmm.
we'll start to essentially just expand, because that's what I think happens when people with shared frequencies gather. It amplifies
Yeah.
and
And
accelerates, you know.
yeah, and we're definitely at that tipping point here on the earth where there's enough of us that have awakened to where that acceleration is happening. It's happening right now. I mean,
It
it's
is. It
like I
is. And
said,
we
we're
need
you know
it.
we just came into the spring. We're springing forward now. The death die off cycle of the winter is over. April 1st is the true new year. So happy
Mhm.
New Year's to you. And
Yes.
so we're springing forward, and so the energies are there, and that's why this call is exciting because really everything we need is already. I always say it's already done. It's already done.
All right.
Whatever, if you've thought about it, it's already been created. Actually, you just haven't seen it materialize because your path hasn't fully anchored in all the steps that get you to the the materialized version of what the idea was, right? So
Yeah.
these are a part of that. And to kind of finish up the awakening process, like fortunately the businesses allowed me, and I've gone through some challenging times, like in 2008 when the real estate market went upside down in the US. I lost 6 houses, investment properties I was building. Half of them were built, half of them were not, and
Mm.
I was $1 million in debt.
Mm.
But I understood it enough about the game that I was like, well, I'll be back in 5 years. Like, give me 5 years, I'll be bigger and better, and inside the game system. Like, I understood it at that point. I wasn't fully awakened then, but my point being is, like, it hasn't been smooth sailing for sure.
Yeah. Yes.
um and so I definitely had my challenges in business and in personal experience, and that we all have that, right? It's a part
Yeah.
of the
That's our
journey, the
the curriculum,
lessons.
right?
Yeah, and a lot of it was awakening. So the next layer was my first daughter Amaya. She got a vaccine, MMR vaccine. She got autism
Oh.
from the MMR vaccine. She'll be 20 this year.
Mm.
And she was definitely a key part of the awakening process of, like, me really seeing that
Mm.
and understanding what was really happening within the game to these children, and understanding that this was all about slowing down frequency of children coming in. That's what that program is about, the vaccine program. um,
Mhm.
and that there was a point where my businesses could support me enough, and I wanted to pursue my spiritual self more. And I went through a whole phase, maybe a couple of maybe 18 months of just like cleaning the body. I went vegan, doing lots of I have a whole document on how I cleanse my body with all kinds of crazy stuff that most people be like, you're fucking crazy, man. um but it worked. I would sun gaze every morning under a tree, did meditation every morning, sun gazing every morning. And one day I had a kundalini experience, and my crown opened, and
Mm.
everything changed. It's
Wow. I'd love to hear more if you don't mind
Yeah,
sharing. That sounds
yeah,
amazing.
it was incredible. I mean, basically, you see the illusion, you see the game playing out, and then you see you come into a bright white light space that um, kind of shows you beyond the projector
Hmm.
of the game and allows you to observe it from that priced position. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's incredible. And certainly since then, like I've had several ayahuasca journeys, which kind of when you reach a certain level, uh the medicines like ayahuasca can show you things that they can't show another being that hasn't,
Mm.
isn't prepared for that, because it all requires another layer of responsibility
Absolutely. Yeah.
that many cannot are not ready to uh to manage and hold, so
Yeah.
um so that was a beautiful part of that journey. Again, at that point I was in Southern California. I lived in Southern California 22 years before I moved here to Nicaragua six or so years ago.
Mhm.
During COVID I moved here to Nicaragua, and yeah, so what happened was I was actually, so I was awakened in the game
Mhm.
at that point. And I'm looking around going, it was a really challenging observation, right? Be like, holy shit,
Mm.
like everybody's completely lost. Like this is like, how do I process this as a being in the game, observing it and seeing all my brothers and sisters completely lost? How do you even begin to process that and say, where do I go from here? I mean, I
Yeah.
still have to make, I still have to run businesses and pay the rent and and reflect on all of this in a way that's like, well, yeah, it's a wild sort of undertaking once you reach that resonance. It's beautiful, but it's also like, holy shit, what do we do now? Like,
Yeah.
how do we
Yeah.
start to move this in another direction, right? And this is, call it, this is probably 2010
Hmm.
when this happened, and so yeah, and I think that's supportive, like that the bit of the story is supportive for those that are trying to, clean their body and eat better and do some meditation and take some of those steps, that because it's easier now. Like when I
Hmm.
did it, it's a beast. I mean, it was everybody was like, are you crazy, man? Like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
enemas every day and all this stuff. Like, what are you doing? Like, so now it's very common. Like, a lot of this stuff is commonplace, and people are doing cleanses and fasting and juicing and all the things now. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's a lot easier to do now if you are ready to to go down the journey and unravel and heal yourself and kind of move beyond the game and its constraints. Um, it's definitely a worthy path, and like I said, beyond that, in years after that, I've had several ayahuasca experiences. I'm not really called to medicine anymore. I already know what she's going to show me. So it's not, if somebody needs me to be there or wants me to be there with them, I would participate probably for a loved
Hmm.
one. But I don't really, there's no purpose in, the medicines for me at this point. Uh, but what was interesting is when I was in California, uh, I had this calling to Central America, and I didn't know like what it was. Sure, Costa Rica is a beautiful place, but I had never been, and like you know, um, it was just weird. It was just like, I don't know why I need to go there. Like, Southern California is beautiful. I know it's dense and there's a lot of funky energy in Southern California, but my family, my daughter were there, and like all those things were there, and so but one day my daughter, again, who, just to reiterate, she got autism at a very young age, and she, during that time, was like the time, like initially she was she was only partially verbal. She can understand everything, but she couldn't speak at
Mhm.
almost at all. Like she definitely made pronunciations and sounds, but you couldn't make out what she was trying to say. So she would use originally she had used this system called PECs. You'd put these pictures on Velcro and like build a sentence with pictures. And
Mhm.
then they quickly got her. She was one of the first people to use an iPad with
Mhm.
programs like Proloquo, which is a program for children that can't verbalize and they can spell and build language through the app. And so
Mhm.
she was one of those beings that first was introduced to that technology, and she accelerated. She was like the poster child for like, oh my god, these kids that go from a PEC system, the old PEC system, to Proloquo on an iPad, like, she was the poster child because she just crushed it. She's on the iPad, doing this wild stuff. Anyway,
Amazing.
so again, I was having this calling within me to get to Central America for some reason. I didn't really understand it fully. And one day, my daughter Amaya, she told me telepathically, she said, Dad, there's nothing more for you to do here. You have to go. There's work to be done.
Wow.
Yeah. She said there's work to be done. And I was like, okay. So
Wow.
because a part of it is like I had to leave her behind, you know.
Oh.
Her mother and I, we were already divorced, and it just it required me to go without her. and
Mm.
and but it was so within 2 weeks I sold and gave away everything. It was 2 bags and my dog, and I had tickets to Costa Rica. I thought I was going to move to Costa Rica,
Mm.
and then COVID hit, and I kind of saw what Costa Rica's government was doing with having people saying, "Well, if you have this license plate, you can't drive on these days." And I'm like, "That's communism. That's not health related at all. I don't think I want to go there."
Mm.
So it was all part of the journey to get me in Nicaragua, which is where my unique frequency needed to be. Because when I got here, um, Source provided everything. I lived on a beach in a mansion for a year. It was so cheap because nobody was here during COVID that I
Mm.
had this amazing, like the best surf beach in Nicaragua. I had a place on the water in a giant house, and I invited like all kinds of people from Canada to the States, like, come down here. It's amazing. And anyway, fast forwarding, like I would walk on the beach every morning. And when you get to these certain levels, like Source just speaks to you directly. It's like having a conversation with your Source self. It's yourself outside of the game. And Source said, I need you to walk on this beach for 6 months or so. You're going to repair the crystalline grid that's here. There's a large energy vortex here, and the grid needs repair. I said,
Mm.
okay, well, I love walking here every morning, so I'm happy to do that. And literally almost to the day, like 6 months later, Source said the grid is completely repaired here. You need to go down to San Juan de Sur, which is another part of Nicaragua, because your brothers and sisters are going to be coming in there, and they're going to need your energy there. You know, so these are like these are what happened. So I just kind of, again, like you said, like we're just flowing. We're in the flow. We're not. We're certainly taking compassionate action and doing the things that we want to create. But you certainly, a part of it is just surrendering uh, into the universe and God's guidance, so that Source can kind of tell you where to go next and what you need to do next for your
Yeah.
own benefit. And I think obviously we get in the way with our ego and our mind, and like, no, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna, all these things that we kind of get going there. And I tried, I don't need to try anymore. Actually, I'm in the flow all the time, so it really just, it's a beautiful space to be in, and it's an exciting time to see everyone on earth awakening. And I certainly respect those that don't want to awaken or don't want to step into their own greatness yet. That's okay. Like, everybody's going to get there at some point, and maybe it's not here on the earth, but they'll get there. And for the ones that are here on the earth and want to get there, I'm holding space for them. I basically, again, I'm a phase one being. There's three phases, and I basically stand on the bridge, the fourth dimensional bridge to 5D, and I'm putting out my hand for those that are ready to cross, and that's really the space I hold here.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing all that. Thank you for being so connected to your heart and being so open with it. Because I know, especially for men, there's so many stories, right? With being able to show your emotions and have your
Yeah.
heart open. So I commend you for doing your work and embodying this beautiful, open-hearted state of allowing
Thank you.
yourself to feel and express and knowing that you're safe, right? And held,
Oh, for sure.
being exactly who you are, and for just being so willing to also listen to those calls. Like, I can't imagine how difficult of a decision and a sacrifice it must have felt when you received that message from your daughter. Like, you know,
It's profound.
yeah, it's like, here's this great unconditional love that I know. I have two kids as well, right? Like, parent love is nothing can compare to that. And yet,
Hmm.
the soul mission almost when it calls you, you must, right? If you're to be a steward of something, you must. There is no other way. So I
No,
just
that the piece what's really interesting, and I think it's a reflection for everybody as they get the callings and that come through for them, is that it was also a lesson for me because at a young age I had a lot of judgment and lower vibrational frequency emotions tied to my relationship with my father, who,
mm,
at some point when I was very young, my mother and my father split up, and my father wasn't there, and then he was, and then he wasn't, and then, so it allowed me to have that process of like, well, no, my father did, and this is a part of that unraveling that I did in the 18 months of meditating every day, sun gazing, was like, I went back to all the stories and I rewrote them.
mm.
I found the gift in every story.
You go deeper into that because that's where my work centers around is going deep into the subconscious and actually
Mm-hmm.
rewriting those stories and then making identity level shifts because that's what's
Huge.
required, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you could share a little
100%.
bit more about your process, because I know there isn't
For
just one
sure.
way. Each of us kind of finds our own formula or framework for it, but that is the work that needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like
Mm-hmm.
at the operating system, right? Like you're going to the software and you're rewriting it. So what was your process?
100%. Yeah. So I think again, like, um, when you are able to get into a meditative state on a regular basis, and again, these are just in the game, we know that if we practice a sport, we're going to get good at the sport, right? If we whatever we repeat over and over again, we become good at, whether that's serving us or not.
Mhm.
If you keep drinking beers every weekend, you're going to become an alcoholic, likely, like that's how it works, right? You just created it through the repetition. So it's the
Habitual,
same.
habitual creature, right?
Right. So, I just choose to have habitual habits that support my frequency and vibration, my harmonic balance. So
Mm.
that's really where, and I think if you can come into that, that's what most beings in the game are seeking without really mindfully understanding it, is that you are seeking harmonic balance within yourself, within the vessel. Most people are kind of like, how do I escape the matrix? And I've been there. I understand that stage. But you built the matrix, so you have to rewrite the stories that you created for yourself in the game to create a new matrix. It's based on different things, right? And we wanted to experience separation and duality and lack and fear. Like that's why we came in, and is part of the game is like, well, why not? Why would we not come into a game like that? Because we're beings of light that we can do whatever we want, and we know that fear it's not even real. So to go in and be able to experience that within a game that improves our ability to co-create outside of this game and within it, why not? Why would I not go in and be an anchor for love and light for this game to ascend, right? So
Yeah.
so rewriting the story is everything, because you can't transmute the emotional energy that you've got tied up from your experiences and trauma and things. You have to go in and see that the being that created the trauma, whether it was you or an experience or whatever, that they were just doing their best. They, from the perspective they were at the time. You had given away too much of your power to the father figure, the mother figure, the uncle that did bad things, whatever it is. You gave power away to the idea that that being, because of their age or whatever, you know, did bad things to you. To them, they didn't do a bad thing to you. They did what they thought was good for them at the time, and that hurts you. And if you can come back to that story and say, what can I learn from that? And can I see at all from the other being's perspective why they might have done that to me or to whomever, that I create, that this trauma was created, so that I can find forgiveness for them and for myself in that process. And in that questioning of each of these pieces of your puzzle, you can find small gifts in each of them. And that's what I did with my father. In the case of the greater trauma, I think, that really had me into emotional bondage as a child, with eating problems and eating too much food and using food as an emotional tool, was being able to see the gift, and that he actually played a role in helping me come to this realization right now, that actually he and everyone else are just doing their best. And at that time, him going off and doing something else or creating another relationship or whatever he needed to do was right for him because of his relationship with my mother, or whatever the circumstances were. It's kind of irrelevant, actually. And then through the actual real life story of me and my daughter, like, I realized, like, yeah, and I'm just doing the best that I can, and I'm following my calling. And I know that Amaya completely understands that, because she just told me to leave telepathically. So it was like a full circle of letting go, and it's sort of like that happened with Amaya after I had rewrote the story about my father, because that
Wow.
energy had been released. And the step in the process in getting me to Nicaragua couldn't happen until I had transmuted the energies that I had with my father.
Mm.
It would have never manifested that way. It would have had to gone through another way to manifest that,
Power, so
Mm-hmm.
powerful. This is literally how you essentially free yourself from the karmic loops that we stay stuck in for lifetimes, right? Until the soul
Mm-hmm.
is ready to say, well, why would I continue to do that if I know now that I have the free will choice to actually rewrite the story and exit, right, into the next level of Dharma, which is, sounds like you're now aligned with that and you're actually in service to your soul.
100%.
So um, how do you articulate what that is for you? What is your specific mission? Because I think each one of us has, like, a piece of the puzzle, so to speak. So what do you
Yeah.
feel?
So my mission is to hold space for all of my brothers and sisters until they cross the bridge. And I'll
Mm,
be here as long as that takes.
it's beautiful. And when you say hold space, you mean like a physical, like what you are creating now is the physical community for?
Well, that's one facet of it, right? It's an energetic space,
Mhm,
and it's a magnetizer. I'm very good at transmuting
mhm,
lower vibrational energies. Many of the scenarios that I was called into here in Nicaragua allowed for dark energies to be pushed out of the
mm,
area and transmuted. So, um, but more so in terms of, holding space, it's leading by example. So you
Embodiment,
have,
right?
if you, it's not the things you say, it is, but it's more about who you are and the being that you are, which then resonates in energy that affects people in a way your mind can't conceive,
Yeah.
and so that is the key in terms of that, a part of my mission, and it resonates with anyone that is stepping into their gnosis, is in service. 100% you're in service, not because it's a duty, because what else would you be doing? What would be the point, right? What is the point of doing anything else that's not in service? It doesn't make any sense to me anymore,
Yeah.
the yeah. So, but that's a process. Like, it's not, you know everybody's where they need to be. They're exactly where they need to be. Every step is the right step, you um and so, yeah, and the game has already been won. So what we're experiencing now is an unraveling of the old so that the new can be expressed. You have to we have to look at it and feel it one more time before it's finally gone. And there's a beauty in that, like, from the perspective of where we're going, and where we came from. These experiences in duality are not found in many places in the universe. So, the earth is created, third dimensional earth, the school has created a beautiful opportunity for those that had I mean, many beings couldn't come here because it was too dangerous for their soul to be trapped forever, because they didn't have enough experience yet in these games to be able to unravel it. And so, being here and having this experience, a lot of beings don't fully understand the the privilege it is to actually be on the earth in this third dimensional game. And once it does transcend and we move into the fifth dimensional space, we're largely in the fourth dimension now, where conspiracy and, oh my god, what the hell's happening, and maybe I am God, I don't even know anymore. Like, that's the fourth dimension, and it has its own different wavelengths, in the early stages of fourth dimensional resonance. And then, with AI and all these tools are just that, they're just that, tools, right? Just like marijuana was a tool for us, or whatever list of things that we've had over our experience, they were all tools to get you closer to who you truly are. And the AI is reminding us that we can create anything we want with our thoughts. It's a tool, it's a bridge tool in the fourth dimension that's helping us understand that in the fifth dimension, you just think it and it's there. It's arrived. There is no, like, doing. There's no doing to do. So this is a transitional stage of coming fully into the heaven on earth expression. So I think for each of us, if we can hold the perspective of that, then you're not going to get trapped into the little everyday things that kind of can tie up your energy or get you worked up. Or if you can come back to that, take 3 deep breaths and come back into the now, with the perspective of knowing, hey, the earth game is actually completely unlocked and it has been won, and the win has been shared. So every one of us has complete unlocks and things that we can't fully understand yet that are coming in. But that's why, again, that we're talking about this, like the winter season ending and coming into spring in this fire horse year. Like, it's about to get wild in terms of, sure, old energies are still clearing, and, a lot of the beings out there, they need to see certain things on the screens. You're watching a movie at this stage. It's a divine movie for everyone. Whatever you need to see, you're going to see it on a screen or whatever in your real life. Like, whatever helps you transmute your lower vibrational energies, it's all coming in to support you now. So the things you see out there, they're they're triggering you at every level so that you can go ahead and transmute anything you have left in your vessel, and so we can all move up. So we're creating a vacuum of the old dissolving so that the new can fill that vacuum with the new expression, new earth. And you see that through even us connecting in terms of building community and trying to bring, unique ideas about what community looks like and how we operate in that. That's what's materializing now across the earth. Everybody, I mean, you and I are talking now, but there are many communities that have already been built physically and have been running for decades, Costa Rica and many other places actually. And now their whole movement is accelerating very quickly, and we're trying to find our way through that because it's a different way of operating, it's a different way of building, it's a different way of thinking about how we do things in terms of the human connection. It's not just building structures and boxes that we live inside of.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, I think telepathically you felt where I wanted to go next, which is exactly that, right? Because it isn't about that. I mean, that is almost like a byproduct of what you were touching on earlier, is this inner state of being, right? Because we know now in the game that the external is just mirroring. It's like a instant feedback mechanism that gives you back
Mhm.
what your own internal state, your own
Mhm.
level of consciousness that you're operating from. So you're a couple steps ahead, many more steps ahead in terms of actually physically building the not just again, not just the infrastructure, but the practices or I mean, I don't know much about your project in terms of the back end of what systems are in place, how governance is
Mhm.
created, like all of that, if you could share that part, because I think that is actually the next frontier and what needs to be pioneered forward that then can be shared, right? And again, technology is
Mhm.
a gift for that so that we can all
For
kind of tap
sure.
into this centralized, I don't know, hub, so to speak, right, of what works. And then we iterate. And that's the only way
Mhm.
it gets really kind of solidified into form as sort of the new operating system or the new paradigm,
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
new earth,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
yeah, what is the actual like physical, practical aspect of that in your world, in the community that you're building? What does that look like right now? And I know it's a
Yeah. So,
progress, of
mhm.
course, right? But in this moment in time, what?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point. Like it's moving very quickly in terms of what it is, and I think what's happening is that the consciousness of humans is changing so rapidly that something we may thought we needed 2 years ago doesn't make sense anymore because it's kind of like, oh, we kind of know that, right? Like, why would we? We don't need to build a document or something to say that we know that already, right?
Mm,
Um, but I think right now what it looks like is really leveraging DAO structures to use for governance. And a DAO is basically like um, it's like a operating system
mhm,
that can leverage several technologies like crypto and other tokenization of things, but it allows for, think of the old structure, which is a homeowners association, which is basically, a pyramid of like, we tell you what the rules are and we make you think that you can help us make the rules, but really you can't, and you have to pay us every month. That kind of totalitarian, masculine approach of things.
mhm,
Um, we need to, how do, to your point, like we're not just, in my case, I'm not selling lots and you're buying homes. I know a lot of communities are still doing that because that's just kind of how we understood how things have to happen. That's just not the case, actually. So my structure is, it's really because of where I'm at in Nicaragua from a legal standpoint, they really only have corporations that have a lot of legal standing. Like in the States, they have land trusts and several different trust types that you could hold land in and build community. Like we don't have those options here in Nicaragua. So in my case here in Nicaragua, and the project's name is El Regalo on Ometepe Island. It's 40 manzanas, which is give or take 90 or so acres, I think, of land on the beach, on the lake. Um, and in and so what's happening with my project is that you're going to be buying ownership of the entire enterprise. So that enterprise has a beach club and lodging um, and lots of retreat center activity things that actually generate revenue. And then you have the community, which is the heart. So you have the engine and the heart, where people may live full time or partial time as well in the community. And you're not buying a lot. What you're buying is shares in that business, and that will give you access to a home based on your needs. So if you need a home for you and your three children, that will be available to you. So that's how we're doing things differently, from that perspective. And then also, just from a structural standpoint, all the buildings and structures will be round. So we're building dome homes. Our bamboo structures, like common structures, will be round or curved in nature to bring the feminine energy in. I personally have no interest in living in a box anymore. And I'm excited to feel what it feels like to live and operate in these circular feminine energy based structures. So the DAO is really where you can, it's kind of a bridge between the traditional world of papers and we're all agreeing and come to meetings, to the digital world of like, hey, well, we're here, you and I are talking from different parts of the world, without any problems. Like, we should be able to govern our community that way, in terms of, hey, there's a proposal, you can quickly on your phone vote yes, I support that, and I support putting money from the business and the community into that, or I don't, and then we can tokenize the work. So if there are local beings that want to build equity or membership access or discounts or things like that, we can tokenize volunteer work, and we can do a lot of things that you can't do in the traditional structure of, you have to give me the money and then I give you the access. Like, those are kind of the old world. We can do a lot of things that are very flexible and allow people that maybe don't have the financial money, or they have the financial money but they want to earn access, or and then you have some gamification, like, to get people involved in projects that maybe they're just shy and they didn't know they were going to love gardening. But if you gamified it a little bit, gave them tokens for coming to the gardening workshop with the rest of the community, they would earn tokens, which would then give them additional benefits in the community or at the beach club or whatever. So the DAO is a very flexible structure that allows, not fixed in just you have to pay with US dollars. You could pay with different ways, and also allows you to tokenize things. Yeah, so I hopefully that helps. The DAO is it can be built for whatever your needs are. It's very flexible, and you can start here and it can expand to there over time. And so people like at DAO Club and DAO University and the financial side of with like HIFA, HYPHA, those guys have been doing this for some time and helping people build those structures that meet their community's needs, so that there's that flexibility, and every community member feels like they've got an easy way to have their voice heard too.
Well, it's all very new information for me personally. I'm gonna have to research everything that you're sharing because it does sound like the new way, but we have to understand what that means. Like, for someone like me who's very new to this, I mean, the vision has been in me, but the actual human part of me, all of this is like a complete huge learning curve that I'm just
Yeah,
literally.
we're all in it. I mean,
Yeah. So this
trust me,
DAO,
like it's all I'm learning as I go as well.
yeah, I mean but it sounds like that system has already existed, or is it
It
like when?
has.
Okay, it
It
has.
has, and many people are using DAOs for different things, not just community. They're
So
using
the
them
DAO
for
is like a tokenized system. Is that my
it's a
understanding?
structure, yeah, it's a structured system that can use tokenization to do different things. If you need to
Okay.
raise money and people want to buy with crypto, and again, like, if you want to tokenize down to, oh, I'm going to trade 8 hours of work for this many tokens, and those
Mhm.
tokens equal this in your community, in your environment, that kind
Interesting.
of thing.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely look into try to understand what that what that is and how to actually employ that, in
Yeah, I'm
practice.
talking to again DAO Club and
Uh-huh.
DAO Universe and the folks at Haifa.
Hmm.
Um,
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's very
yeah,
useful.
and there's quite a lot of different stuff happening in the DAO world right now. It's one of those like, wow, it's sort of like AI. It's just like every day is like, whoa, what happens?
Loading.
So DAO stuff has been going on largely when crypto really started,
I see. Okay.
surfacing. The DAO was like a natural progression of crypto.
Hmm.
Uh, and because there were limitations still with how you could use crypto, and the DAO opened some of the gates on, well, what if we had a governing structure that will
Hmm.
allow us to use the crypto in ways that we haven't thought about using money in the past.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So speaking of money, these types of projects, I mean, the scale is requires quite a bit of capital, right? If you really want to create some substance, like something that can really be um, used as a model, right? I think you need capital. We're still playing in the game where you need resources and capital and
Yeah.
structures and things, right? So
Mm-hmm.
in terms of funding something like this, that's where I'm at right now. It's like, okay, I have finally kind of brought the abstract idea into a pitch deck that I want
Mm-hmm.
to
Right.
next
Mm-hmm.
step of like, okay, let's share the vision. In your case, was it your own investment or did you have to go through the
No.
connecting with people or like
And
how?
all so yeah, that's a great question, and it's evolving. Like,
Mhm.
no, I just knew that this would be, and again, to give a little bit of a backdrop, I did start interviewing people 10 years ago, via Zoom calls, friends and friends of friends, and started kind of having these calls, and asking people, what do you want to see in conscious community? That was kind of my broad question to everyone, and we would talk through the different pieces. So I interviewed almost over 100 people in the
Mhm.
process, and that was the beginning of my process to getting where I'm at now, where we're actually materializing the community. So it's been a lot of like walking around on land and going to different places and talking to different people over many years. So that process started when I was still in the States, and
Mhm.
now we're in a materialization phase of bringing all that to the place where, to your point, I'm doing the same thing. I'm saying, well, I've run numbers on everything, and if it were just straight like give me money and you get access, I need 36 to 45 people to give me $200,000 each,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So if I were to do it just that way, that was what it would look like.
I see.
And that would give us the capital to do everything that we need to do, as well as operate the community and the engine, the beach club, and all the things. But I'm saying, well, what are other scenarios? Well, the other scenarios are there's lots of regenerative funds out there. So if on the land you're going to do something regenerative to that land, then there is money and funding available that you can tap into,
Mhm.
depending on where you are in the world and where you're building.
Yeah.
Nicaragua probably has more limitations than other places because of what's played out over the years here, but um, there are funds that want to regenerate the earth, and the money's been set aside for that. There's that. There are other both debt and equity financing out there and available for these types of communities. So if you can build a financial model, like I said, I've got an engine part. It's not just a community.
Mhm.
Um, because if it's just community, then you get into this like selling lots and selling houses, and you're back in the old structure, which tends to not bring people that are in the same residence together, which then creates separation and division. So certainly, there has to be an energetic onboarding with who's coming into your community, and do they resonate with what you're trying to do and where you're trying to do it. And so you have some of those financing um, arms are available for this type of new community build. So there are
Mhm.
people that do want to finance these types of communities. Um, Again, maybe they're the financiers are in a space that I am, where they want to do great things with the funds they have available. Um, there's definitely some of that. And then I think for a properly structured community that has a business model piece to it, if it's done right, I mean, even a traditional bank would consider, especially if the land is being used as the asset to back the loan. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you could probably get some traditional funding that's probably not, you know, um, completely crazy in terms of interest rates and things. So that's where I'm at actually with this project. Is I'm very close and negotiating now with the landowner, who is a very beautiful being that already had good intentions to do things on land, and my project came in and was bigger than he had really wanted to get into, but he's now agreeing to be a part of the project, and giving us more flexibility, like 5-year promissory note, a way to pay for the land over time so that the business could actually make the payments as we get the business going. So, just even in your negotiations with the landowners, depending on where they're at, like, you might be able to find agreements with them that allow you to open up new financial doors that, like, well, great, now that I don't have to come up with this big number for the land and I can pay for that over time, then that really changes everything in terms of, tying up cash, or, giving us the opportunity to have that cash available to do things sooner in phase
Mm-hmm.
0 or phase 1 that we couldn't have done had we given them a full payment up front for the land. So, um,
Right.
because
So,
of like giving you that feedback on the DAO and all that, like, don't assume that it's going to be like, leave, be in surrender and let the ideas and let source kind of bring you how
mhm.
things are going to get done, with the gnosis that there are regenerative funds available if you're going to do something regenerative to the land, and there are lending outlets that still hold kind of a traditional model on how they lend, but they do want to support these types of projects,
Mhm.
and so there's a
Great
lot
news.
of different avenues that we kind of have to play with, like Play-Doh, together to
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
what makes the most sense, but
Right. Mhm.
yeah.
No, thank you so much. Yeah, because it just sounds like there's all of this infinite potential, right, that exists in the quantum field, and it's kind of dependent on each individual vessel, right, so to speak, and how open you are in terms of playing with that field.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, what I'm hearing is just potentials and possibilities that you can tap
100%.
into based on, again, how open you are and how willing you are to just play with it, right? It
Mm-hmm.
really is just it's a game. My personal curriculum is to stop taking it so seriously and actually allow for it to be a game. And I think just to bring compassion to the human part is I was raised and my history is like it's quite survival based programming that is still living in my nervous system, right? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
working through that very consciously of you know, creating that safety in my system
Mm-hmm.
because even though my consciousness, like my awakening has taken me to places, it hasn't actually fully embodied in the physical, which is
Mm-hmm.
what actually needs to happen in order to embody the higher frequencies, right? So
Yeah.
it's a journey, right? It's that you can't
Mm-hmm.
actually rush that because just like a seed in the ground, it has its own timing and
Mm-hmm.
you just need to be patient with it. It's already unfolding. Like you said, it's already done. You know, we just get in our own way. I'm speaking for myself of just that ego's impatience of an attachment to like wanting it at a certain time or anything like that, right? So it's great to know that those potentials exist. And the more that the system relaxes and actually allows itself to play within the game.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I think the key there is the environment. So you
mhm.
do have a lot of control over the environment. So the seed has its timing, but
Ah,
one seed can grow exponentially well, and another seed could stall, even though it's the same seed, because
true.
of the environment. So whether that environment is your thoughts, or that environment is the food you eat, or the environment is the products you're using on your body, or the um, or the environment is who you hang out with, and what they're talking about, and all these things, you have full control. That's your free will choice that
Hmm.
you can massage and play with, and be the observer in your environment and say what in this environment is supporting me and what isn't, and making compassionate action steps towards improving the environment, which then allows the body to relax and allows the nervous system to relax so that it can transcend the old program. So that is the key there, is the
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. No, that's a great point because again, the analogy of the soil being favorable. So thank you for that reminder. So I want to be respectful of your time in terms of if people are interested to learn more, how can they, one, get in touch with you or participate or learn more about your project and what you're creating? Um, and what are you currently calling in, right? It sounds like you are welcoming people that might want to, be residents um, to hop on board.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the website is being built, elregalo.life. It's not there yet, but maybe by the time you're watching this, it will be. I hope so. And all that will be there. And again, we're building a a community of up to 144 members, which will probably land around 36 to 45 families of
Mhm.
different sizes. And we will have beachfront. Again, it's on Ometepe Island, Nicaragua, which is already very energetically beautiful and amazing. So we're blessed for that. And yeah, we're calling in people that are facilitators that are interested in participating in the community in any way that resonates with you, both from a volunteer standpoint up to I want to be a founder and I want to be a part of this. So I'm open to having these types of communications like we're having here today with anyone that is resonating with this message you've heard today. And regardless of whether you end up in community with us or not, I hope to be able to help you in your journey and what you're trying to accomplish. So yeah, we're calling in a lot of beautiful beings. Again, I think we're in a spring forward. I think on top of the funding methods we talked about, I think we're going to get a lot of government and other monies that are going to be that are already set aside and are being freed up. So again, to your point of, just continue to work on yourselves and look within as play in the game, and know that the game has already been won, and we're just going through a process of transcendence of the old so that we can create space for the new within us. And then the outer world it has no choice but to express itself in that higher resonance. So,
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lag, right, between the internal stabilization
for
and
now,
yeah, for now, for now. Yeah.
it's
For,
closing quickly. Yeah, yeah.
right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that
It's
internal
beautiful.
coherence, it is beautiful, right? Because
Mhm.
what a just brilliant design. Just right
It's
to that point.
incredible.
Yeah, this intelligence that is expressing itself through each individual fractal
Mm.
as what we are. and and the acceleration of that, which is it's very exciting for me personally. All of this is very new, so it's kind of getting comfortable being in that uncomfortable state because you're at the
Mm.
edge constantly, like
Hmm.
pushing yourself past
Every moment.
comfortable. But that's
uh,
kind of, I think that's what the latest breakthrough for me is like, maybe that's actually how it's meant to be. We are not we were never
that's
designed to
exciting.
be in the comfort because that's like you're slowly dying. If you're
Exactly.
growing, you are consciously actually expanding, knowing that that is part of the process. Like be okay, more than okay, actually invite the discomfort because that means you're actually
Uh-huh.
expanding into the being that you came here to be. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's like the discomfort is the new comfort because that's what it means to actually expand, So
It's helping you see the parts of yourself that need some love,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that you can remove the resistance that really isn't there. It's just you've created it.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's the way I think of it is like reparenting the parts of the psyche that are, more infantile, that need understanding and need growing up to do. That's my personal experience of like these parts of the psyche that I know are not who I am, but they are a part of the game. So
Mm-hmm.
the process or the journey of coming into wholeness is actually integrating these what could be spoken of as shadow aspects, right? Which are just parts of you that you haven't yet fully brought to awareness and understood and integrated. Um,
And loved.
and love, that is,
Most of it's a lack
great.
of love for that aspect of yourself. Like you're not willing to fully accept it, that it
Yes.
is a part of you, you know?
Yeah. And that is the judgment, right? The judgment is what somehow creates that separation, and condemns that part for some reason, right? 'Cause again, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's just because it's a lack of understanding. I think if you understand the parts of you that uh, aren't, somehow acceptable to the ego, it's just because you don't understand the function that they serve, which are just to protect the system, right? It's just
Mm-hmm.
part of that survival programming that we are exiting slowly as a collective.
Yeah, and I made a good practice of just thanking the ego when it would show up. I just thank it and say, thank you so much for helping me when I was in unconscious program thinking, but I'm in full conscious awareness now,
Mm.
and the heart's going to lead. So I appreciate you showing up, but we've got this handled now. And if you
Yeah,
do that again, and it's a repetitive, you have
yeah,
to do it over and over again. Eventually, the ego will subside and allow the heart to lead it. Your every decision.
beautiful. Justin, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
such a courageous leader in this, this sphere of actively co-creating the new earth and sharing yourself
Likewise.
so generously. I'll share, all the information, of course, in the show notes for people that want to learn more about what you're doing or participate. And I'm excited to, watch this project unfold. And if there's anything I can do to support it, I'm always happy to do that. Yeah, let's just continue to
Yeah,
watch it
it's been great.
unfold, to watch
Yeah.
the magic unfold.
And
Yeah.
same with your own efforts and your own dreams. Like be
Thank
sure
you.
to make sure to keep communicating those with beings like myself and others you might interview,
Thank you.
so that we can manifest that too.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Appreciate your
Okay.
time.
If something in this conversation stirred within you, trust that. You didn't find this podcast by accident. And if you're feeling that quiet but unmistakable pull, not just to listen, but to actually build this with us, I want you to know there is a place for you here. LUCA Founders is the space forming right now for the humans who are ready to actively co-create the Being LUCA vision. The ones who carry a piece of the puzzle and know it's time to bring it forward. If that's you, I would love to meet you. Visit the link in the description. Tell us who you are and how you feel called to contribute. And if you're not quite there yet, that's okay too. Subscribe and share this with someone who needs to hear it. And keep listening. Every conversation is another piece of the blueprint. Until next time, keep listening to that quiet voice within. It always knows the way forward. With love, Layla.